Hey, what's up everyone? All right, this video, I'm very excited about this because one of my favorite teachers, authors, spiritual sort of gurus, if you will, is Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I'm sure many of you have heard Joe Dispenza and his teachings. And if you haven't heard who Joe Dispenza is or his teachings, then you're in for a real treat. This video is titled How to Break the Habit of Excessive Thinking. And, how to break the habit of being yourself, which coincidentally is very similar to the title, How to Break the Habit of Excessive Thinking. What Dr. Joe Dispenza is all about, and I think this is one of the reasons why I wanted to feature him on my channel, is that he talks a lot about mind science and spirituality and being able to create your own reality, but from the context of being a scientist and having a scientific background. So we're going to watch this video, and what I'm going to also try to do is to marry his concepts with a lot of my teachings and see if we can make sense out of how higher consciousness, non-duality, enlightenment, transcendence work in relationship to the principles that he talks about, so that we can create a unified understanding of the true nature of reality and how to create the kind of life that we can get really excited about. So let's get into it.
How many people in this audience actually believe in the idea that the way you think has some effect on your life? That your thoughts create your life? You believe that, yes? So how many people here actually woke up this morning and consciously created a future? You know, the biggest reason why people don't do it is because you don't really believe it's true. You see, if you knew on a gut level that it was absolutely true, would you ever miss a day? Come on. And would you ever let any thought slip by your awareness that you didn't want to experience? So your brain, according to neuroscience, is organized to reflect everything you know in your life. Your brain is a record of your environment. It's a record, an artifact of your past. So if you believe this, then does your environment control your thinking, or does your thinking control your environment? So if you wake up in the morning and you get out of bed on the same exact side as you did the day before, you shut the alarm clock off with the same finger, you slip into your favorite slippers, you shuffle into the bathroom and you use the toilet like you always do, then you walk over to the mirror and you look at yourself to remember who you are. Then you get into the shower and you wash yourself in the same routine way. Then you groom yourself to look like everybody expects you to look. Then you go downstairs and you drink coffee out of your favorite mug. Then you drive to work the same way as you did the day before. You see the same people that push the same emotional buttons. You do the exact thing that you know how to do and you memorize and can do so well that you're an expert at. Then you hurry up and rush home so you can hurry up and check your emails, so you could hurry up and go to bed, so you can hurry up and do it all over again. Now, here's my question. Did your brain change at all that day? We could say that you were thinking the same thoughts, performing the same actions, that create the same experiences, that produce the same emotions, but secretly expecting something to change in your life. Would you agree? Yes. So then, as the environment turns on different circuits in your brain, you begin to think equal to your environment. As you see the same people and go to the same places and do the same things at the same time, it's the external environment that's turning on different circuits in your brain, causing you to think equal to everything that you know. And as long as you think equal to everything that's familiar or known to you, what do you keep creating more of? Same life. Now, the quantum law is still applying to you. You're just thinking equal to everything that you know, and you keep creating more of the same. To change, to truly change, is to think greater than your environment. And every great person in history knew this, whether it was William Wallace or Mahatma Gandhi or Martin Luther King or Queen Elizabeth I or Joan of Arc. They all had a vision. They all had an idea. Couldn't see it, couldn't smell it, couldn't taste it, couldn't feel it, but it was alive in their mind.
So I want to say something here that I think is super valuable is, can you create an atmosphere of greatness within you right now? What do I mean by an atmosphere of greatness? Your state of being, or what we could call the conditionality of your consciousness. So as we relate this to the idea of higher consciousness. So what is higher consciousness? Higher consciousness, or pure consciousness, is your unconditioned consciousness, right? In other words, your pure awareness. You are the observer. You are the blank canvas of existence. You are that which is aware of what is happening in front of you. You are the blank screen behind the movie, behind the spectacle of life, right? You are the silence of the present moment. You are the totality of all that is. This is unconditioned consciousness, right? But because you are the totality of all that is, you're both the unconditioned consciousness and you're also the conditioned consciousness. Your conditioned consciousness, we could call that, in the context of this video, your state of being, right? In other words, what is it that you are believing yourself to be in this moment? Now, for most of us, our environment dictates our state of being, right? So if we're doing really well in our life, we feel really good. And if we're doing bad in our environment, then maybe we won't feel so good. But can you create an atmosphere of greatness within yourself? Because your state of being, we could define it as being broken down by really two fundamental components. The first one is your internal representations. In other words, how are you thinking and feeling in your consciousness, right? In other words, how are you conditioning that blank canvas of awareness? Are you aware of yourself as someone who is successful, happy, peaceful, joyous, just having a great time at life, having fun? You're at ease, you're not all tense, you're just relaxed, and you're at peace in the world, and you're doing what needs to be done, and you're having faith and you're trusting? Or are you worried, doubtful, fearful, right? And this is the challenge, right? Because just like going to the gym every single day is a battle of practicing the habit of going to the gym, getting your energy levels up, and doing the work necessary so that you can take care of your health. Maintaining your internal representations is also a muscle. In other words, controlling your mind in a positive trajectory is a muscle, and you have to cultivate it, nurture it, and sustain it over long periods of time in order to control your internal representations. So one of the things you may have heard me say before is one of the first things I recommend when you wake up in the morning, first thing, is think about 10 things you're grateful for, you know? And you could have nothing, quote unquote, nothing, yet you can be grateful and feel like you have everything. I'm grateful for the fact that I can breathe air, that my lungs are healthy. I'm grateful for the fact that I can walk. I'm grateful for the fact that I can speak, that I can talk. I'm grateful for the fact that I have hearing in my ears and that my hearing works. I'm grateful for the fact that I have a mind, I have an intellect, I can think, I can reason. I'm grateful for the fact that I've been given this gift of life and that I have a safe home. I have a place to live, that I have food, that I have water, right? There's so many things you can be grateful for. And the reason why you're practicing that in the first 10 minutes of the day is because you're already conditioning your internal representations. In other words, you are conditioning your consciousness. You are aware of yourself as being someone who is positive and who has the things that they want. And this is the first step towards controlling your state of being. The second thing that plays a huge factor in your state of being is your physiology and your actions, right? What is your posture right now? Take an inventory of what you're doing in this moment. Are you slumped over and sad? Or are you erect and stable and confident and feeling good? So your physiology, your internal representations are so important because what they do is they dictate your actions, and your actions over time creates your behavior, your habits, and your habits over time creates your destiny. So remember, internal representations, physiology, controlling your state of being. And what Joe Dispenza is talking about here is that very often we think our environment is what creates our state of being, our internal representations and our physiology. But we can actually reverse the formula in our internal representations and our physiology. We can control that consciously, deliberately, and we can condition our own consciousness by becoming aware of ourselves as that which we want to be, even if that which we want to be is different than what already is. And by doing that, we over time will condition a new set of consciousness, a new set of thoughts, emotions, feelings, perceptions, sensations, physiology, actions, behavior, habits that over time will rewrite the codex of our life, so to speak, and create a new destiny. And then that will influence our environment, and then our environment changes, which then makes it even easier to practice that different state of being. But also recognize that despite all of this, no matter what great kingdoms of possibilities that you can create through higher consciousness by changing your state of being, that what you fundamentally are is not of this world, because you are the consciousness that is aware of the greatness, the positive, the negative, the good, the bad, the happy, the sad, the duality of life. You are the consciousness that is aware of the play of life on the great screen of higher pure consciousness. So let's keep going.
It was so alive in their mind that they began to live as if that reality was actually happening now. So can you believe in a future that you can't see or experience with your senses yet, but you've thought about enough times in your mind that your brain is literally changed to look like the event has already happened? Neuroscience says it's absolutely possible. Now, your personality creates your personal reality. That's it. It's that simple. And your personality is made up of how you think, how you act, and how you feel. So the present personality who's...
So one thing I'll say here too is that when he says your personality creates your personal reality, we could also think of that in the context of the ego, right? That your egoic mind, right? Your personhood, who you believe you are, creates your personal reality.
Sitting here today, you, has created the present personal reality called your life. Would you agree? Would you also agree then, if you wanted to create a new personal reality, that on a fundamental level you would have to change the thoughts that you are thinking, the behaviors and habits that you're demonstrating, and the emotions that you've memorized that's become part of your identity? And most people try to create a new personal reality as the same personality, and it never works. We have to become somebody else. So then, as you keep thinking the same thoughts, performing the same actions, and living by the same experiences that produce the same emotions, there's a principle in neuroscience that says nerve cells that fire together wire together. And if you keep repeating the same states of mind and body over and over again, your brain begins to fire in the same sequences, in the same patterns and same combinations. And whenever you make your brain work in a certain way, that's called mind. Mind is the brain in action. So as you remind yourself every day who you think you are, you're causing your brain to fire in the exact same ways. And as they fire and wire in the same patterns over time, the brain moves into a very finite signature, and that's called your personality. Now, that box in your brain isn't literally a box, but it's the most commonly wired, neurologically fired programs that run redundantly because we keep doing the same things over and over again. To change your mind, then, is to make the brain work in new sequences and new patterns and new combinations, to begin to make the brain work differently.
Now, this is probably like this is why I love this guy, because his teachings are so profound, right? To create a new personal reality, you need to create a new personality. To create a new personality, you need to change your thoughts, your emotions, your patterns, your habits, your actions, right? When he uses the word personality in my teachings, I would call that the egoic mind structure, the finite mind, or the conditioned consciousness, right? So you are the ever-present observer. You are the pure consciousness that is aware of the one called I, or the personality, or the person. And so you have to reprogram yourself into a different person in order to create a different reality, because reality and personhood are two sides of the same coin, right? Without a person, there is no world. And without a world, there is no person. You need both in order for them to exist. Just like you can't have hot without cold, you can't comprehend the notion of up without the notion of down. These dualities are the very fabric of this reality, this dimension of existence that we call life on Earth. Now, when he says you have to literally recondition yourself and recondition your neurons, because neurons that fire together wire together. This is the hardest part. So in other words, when you wake up in the morning and you want to practice being a different person, and let's just use money as an example. So you want to wake up and you want to say to yourself, what would it feel like? How would I be thinking and how would I be behaving if I was already a wealthy individual? In that particular circumstance, you might start practicing new thoughts, new emotions, but you might have in the back of your mind this voice that says, like, I am wealthy. And then your voice is like, nah, you're broke, right? Like, you're struggling. Your life is difficult. Life is hard, right? And so you have like this battle where you're trying to practice new thoughts. I am successful. I am happy. I am peaceful. And then you have another voice saying, I am anxious, I am fearful, I am worried, I am doubtful, right? And the reason why this voice exists is not because this is who you are. No. The reason why this voice exists is because you've just practiced it. You've conditioned it, right? Imagine you wake up every single day at 6 o'clock in the morning. And we all know this, right? We've all had times in our life we wake up super early, right? You wake up at 5 a.m., 4 a.m. before the crack of dawn. And then without even setting your alarm clock, if you've been waking up early and with an alarm clock, you can turn off your alarm and you'll still wake up. You may not wake up exactly at 5:30 a.m., but you'll wake up at like 5:35 or 5:40. That's because you've conditioned your body to wake up at a certain time. So it's on autopilot. It just automatically wakes you up at that exact same time. Likewise, let's say you've been sleeping in till noon every single day, and we've all been there too, right? And all of a sudden you want to wake up at 6, right? What does it feel like when you try to wake up at 6 a.m. for the first time after having been asleep, or having woken up at noon for like months or weeks or whatever, right? It's really difficult. You're like 6 a.m. You're like, how in the hell did I used to wake up this early? And that's because you've conditioned your body to sleep in, right? It's no different with your thoughts and with your emotions, right? So you're not a victim of repetitive negative thinking. You're not a victim of repetitive negative emotion. You're not a victim of repetitive inaction, repetitive procrastination, repetitive excuse making, repetitive challenges, repetitive circumstances that pop up where it's like every single time you try to do something, something happens in your life that just shatters your efforts. More bad news, more chaos, more challenges, right? You're not unintelligent. You're not bad. You're not a loser. You're not able to succeed. It's just that you have been practicing a state of being, a collective of consciousness over time that has created circumstances in your life that have made it very difficult for you to get the things that you want, kind of like a snowball going over a hill. So when you're and at the beginning, the snowball is small, but then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger as it gets more momentum. So what you have to do is you have to start to recondition your mind to think positive, feel positive, act, take action. And in the very beginning, you're going to be thinking positive and you're going to have a negative voice. You're going to be trying to feel peace and you're going to have negative emotions of like, oh, everything is difficult, right? You're going to take actions, maybe apply for a new job, maybe start that new company, maybe write that book. And then all of a sudden, all kinds of resistance is going to pop up, all kinds of challenges, all kinds of negativity, all kinds of problems. But you have to push through that, because that's just the residual of however long that you've been thinking, feeling, acting negative, however long you've conditioned yourself. You're going to have to overcome that snowball. And the way you overcome that snowball is you don't just give up and say, oh, it's too difficult. What you do is you just let the snowball continue to go, but you stop feeding it. You stop feeding it. And you start thinking, feeling, acting different physiology. And then slowly, that snowball, this is the negative one, starts to diminish. And then eventually, maybe a few months, a few years, then when you start trying to write that book, start that new company, create that new relationship, meet that new person, create that new reality, all of a sudden there's no more resistance. And that's because you have reconditioned yourself into a new person who henceforth can now create a new personal reality. So very important what he's talking about, but I want to give you that nuance of how difficult it is. It's not just a matter of just, oh, I'm just going to think positive and then now my whole life's going to be different. No, you have to overcome a lot of that resistance. And you overcome it through non-resistance, acceptance, surrender, allowing that resistance to be there, knowing that over time, if you just keep it up, you'll eventually change.
One ingredient that allows us to do that is knowledge or information. Because every time you learn something new, you make a new connection in your brain. That's what learning is. Learning is forging new connections. Remembering is maintaining or sustaining those connections. So now, every time you have a thought, you make a chemical. And if you have a great thought, or an unlimited thought, or a joyful thought, you turn on a set of circuits in your brain that fires in a very specific sequence, pattern, and combination that produces a level of mind that turns on another part of the brain that makes a chemical for you to begin to feel exactly the way you were just thinking, great or unlimited or joyful. Now, if you have a negative thought or an unhappy thought or a self-depreciating thought, you turn on a different set of circuits and a different combination, a different sequence, and a different pattern that produces a different level of mind. And the brain then begins to make a different batch of chemicals that signals the body for you to begin to feel exactly the way you were just thinking, negative or unhappy or unworthy. So the moment you begin to feel the way you think, because the brain is in constant communication with your body, you begin to think the way you feel, which makes more chemicals for you to feel the way you think, and then you think the way you feel, and then you feel the way you think, and then you think the way you feel. And some people do this for 20 or 30 or 40 years. Now, the redundancy of that cycle over time creates what I call a state of being. And a state of being is when your mind and body are...
There's that word, state of being, and I apologize for actually interrupting him. So what he just said there is a state of being is mind and body. But let's let him finish his definition, and then I'll provide some commentary. So state of being is mind and body
working together, or your thoughts and feelings are aligned to a concept. So thoughts are the language of the brain, and feelings are the language of the body. And as people get caught in this cycle of thinking and feeling and feeling and thinking, over time, they condition their body to memorize that emotion as well as the conscious mind. And whenever the body knows as well as the mind, that's called a habit. A habit is when your body is the mind. Now, 95% of who you are by the time you're 35 years old is a set of memorized behaviors, a set of emotional reactions, beliefs, perceptions, attitudes that run just like a computer program. So 5% of your conscious mind begins to work against 95% of what you've memorized. So the person wants to think positively, but they're feeling negatively. They want to create their dream board, and put up their future life, but they feel unworthy. That's mind and body in opposition. We have to.
One thing I want to mention here too, and this is super, super important, okay, is that a lot of that 95% that he's talking about of like the emotions that are stored in the body, they're unconscious. And so one of the things that we talk about in terms of on the path of transcendence or the path of enlightenment, or how do we achieve unity consciousness? Unity consciousness is about becoming aware of your unconsciousness. And what we mean when we say aware of your unconsciousness is so many spiritual teachers, whether it's, we can go on a deep list of all the different spiritual teachers, many who are featured on this channel, all talk about meditation as being the path to achieving unity consciousness or to become aware of the unconscious. But, what is meditation? Because a lot of people struggle with this notion of like, what do you mean by becoming aware of the unconscious? I'm going to break it down really simple with one word: watchfulness. Meditation is about watchfulness. And meditation has become so overly complicated, but it's just about watchfulness. And what are you watchful of? You're watchful of your thoughts, your emotions, your habits, your actions, and your behaviors. In other words, you are watchful of your, as he would say, you're watchful of your personality. Or as I would say, you're watchful of your egoic mind. Because what happens is when we say you're unconscious of your emotions, is you might be driving down the street and you're thinking, I'm positive, I'm happy, I'm happy. But at that exact same moment, you could be feeling that you're sad. Or you could be feeling worried, but you're not aware of the fact that you're feeling like that. And so it's unconscious to you, and this is why you may say, well, I've tried, Phillip, to be positive. I tried thinking positive. I've tried this stuff, and it doesn't work. It doesn't change my reality. And the reason why is it's not because the fundamental nature of reality isn't the fundamental nature of reality. No. It's because you're unconscious of resistance within yourself, right? And so you have to be watchful or meditate. Meditation isn't about sitting here like this. This is not, you can meditate like this, that's fine. But I could be driving down the street and I could be meditating, because part of my awareness is, we're watchful of everything else around us. We're watchful of our environment, our friends, our family, those people around us, our jobs, we're living our life, and we're aware of everything other than what's happening within ourselves. Right? We're conscious of everything other than ourselves. So if you can practice watchfulness of yourself, so instead of putting all of your focus on being aware of what's happening outside of you, and put some of that awareness or that watchfulness of what's happening inside of you as well as what's happening around you, now you're in a state of meditation permanently. Not just when you're doing this, but from the moment you wake up to the moment you're asleep. Watch yourself. How are you thinking? How are you feeling? And every single time you become aware, oh, I'm sad. Well, then now you have an opportunity to practice the opposite. Instead of being sad, I'm going to practice happiness. No, I'm really sad, right? Conditioned consciousness, right? It's like this. It has that momentum. You got to slow it down. Watchfulness, awareness slows it down. Why does it slow it down? Because you become aware of it. You're dissolving it. And then you're practicing the opposite. And then you're gaining new momentum in the new direction. And that's a very important nuance. And one of the reasons why mind science and a lot of these teachings are so difficult for so many people is because of your subconscious mind that's on autopilot due to your unconscious unawareness of what's really happening inside you.
Recondition the body to a new mind. So how many people here know someone who's memorized suffering? Doesn't have to be you, it could be anybody. And you say to that person, hey, did you read the book I gave you? What do they say? No. Did you see the DVD I gave you? Oh, no. hey, listen, we're going to go out to dinner, we're going to go see some stand-up comedy, we're going to go for a walk along the water, you want to come? No. What are they saying? I'm insisting on this neurochemical order that no person, no thing, no experience can move us from it. And we have these three brains to allow us to move into a new state of being. And the quantum field, universal mind, whatever you want to call it, responds to who you're being. Not what you're thinking, not what you're feeling, but the combination of how you're thinking and how you're feeling, called a state of being. Now, most people...
God, it's so profound. So one of the most important things he said there is the quantum field, right? What is the quantum field? In my teachings, we could call that, as I talk about in my book, the blank canvas of awareness, right? In other words, if you were to think of your life or reality as a three-dimensional movie screen, right? If you were to turn off the movie and the whole screen faded to blank, that's pure consciousness, unconditioned consciousness, or what we could also call the quantum field. Now, that quantum field responds to your state of being. Well, what did we say earlier the state of being was? Your state of being is your conditioned consciousness made of what? What do we say? Your internal representations, which are your thoughts, your emotions, right? So how you're thinking and how you're feeling, your thoughts influence how you feel influences your thoughts, and it creates a neurochemistry or a personality. And then the second thing we said is your physiology, right? And those two things come together and they create the probability of your actions and your habits. Your actions and your habits then go on to create the probability of your destiny. Well, whatever your state of being is what the quantum field responds to. So if you have an atmosphere of greatness, right? And what do I mean by greatness? What I mean is that your thoughts and your actions are aligned with your higher identity, right? You're thinking the thoughts of your higher self, or what we could call God's mind. You are one with greatness, your highest destiny, your soul. You are one with your soul, and you're aligned with your soul, and you're in an atmosphere of greatness. What would my soul be thinking right now? That I can be, have, do anything that I want. That this world is mine for the taking. That I came here for greatness, for happiness, for peace, and for my most supreme success. And you have this atmosphere of greatness all around you. That if you are expressing that energy out into the quantum field, it will return in kind that which you put into it. For those of you who can remember before iPhones, we had those Polaroid cameras where you would take a photo and then it would spit out the image, and then you would kind of have to dry it, and then the image would come in, right? So think of your state of being as think of pure consciousness as that photography film. When it first comes out, it's blank. It's just pure consciousness. And then it reveals a picture. What is that picture? That picture is your conditioned consciousness, your state of being, what you're projecting holographically onto the contours of pure consciousness as space and time. So if you are aware of yourself, watchful of yourself, and you're practicing happiness, success, peace, love, the heavenly states of consciousness, over time, when that film dries, you're going to receive back from the quantum field that which you ultimately want.
Wait for what? Crisis or trauma or disease or loss or diagnosis to really want to change. They wait to the point where the ego is brought to such a low level that they cannot go on business as usual any longer. That's when we begin to look at how we're thinking or what we believe or how we act or our attitude or what emotions we're living by. And my message is, why wait? We can learn and change in a state of pain and suffering, which tends to be the human model, or we can learn and change in a state of joy and inspiration. Now, you want to learn the hardest part about all of this? You ready? The hardest part of all of this, the hardest part of all of this is making the time to do it. That's it. That's it. Making time for your precious self.
I'm going to end this video with 2 words. Why wait is what Joe Dispenza is his message to all of us. Why wait? Most of us will say, you know what? What is my dream life? What is my dream reality? Well, so many things that I want, I'm going to have to wait, right? Maybe I need to wait till I'm older, or I need to wait till I have more money, or maybe I need to progress in my career, right? What ultimately I think the mind sciences, what they teach us, and what this idea of a quantum field and states of being and higher consciousness, what ultimately it teaches us is that we don't have to wait, because waiting implies time. Time and space are constructs of the egoic mind or mind. Pure consciousness is always in the present moment. So whatever it is that you truly want right now, you don't have to know how it's going to happen, when it's going to happen. That's not your job. Your job is to simply focusing this instrument of evolutionary might that has been forged over hundreds of thousands of years, called the egoic mind, to focus it on what it is that you want and to exclude every single thought and emotion that contradicts the assumption that what you want is already yours, so that you create a state of being, of already having it, and to express that out into the quantum field, and to allow life through its own means and mechanics to bring to you the path that will lead to the realization, the actions that are required for you to bring into existence your own state of being into the physical reality, which I ultimately believe is the purpose of human life. That we come here to awaken into the enlightenment of what we truly are, pure consciousness. And then to be able to take that pure consciousness and then, like an artist, to condition it on the photographic film of space and time, to create infinite kingdoms of possibilities that reflect the realization of our heart's deepest desires, so that we may have our deepest peace, our greatest happiness, and our most supreme of success.